The thing about old houses is some won't let you go. A young army officer is sitting alone in a locked bedroom in the dark, and he chose to do so. He is engaged to the daughter of the house. He has heard what people say about this room, that no one who spends a night in it is ever the same, and he does not believe a word of it. So a bargain is struck. He carries a pistol and a small handbell. If he needs help, he will ring once. If something is wrong, he will ring twice. The family waits downstairs. On the stroke of midnight, the bell rings once. They look at one another. A minute passes. 2. Then it rings again. Not a signal, but a frenzy. The clapper hammering as though the man's hand has lost all control. They are already running for the stairs when the sound reaches them. A single shot from behind the locked door. This is one house on one square in the richest city in the world. Welcome to Unquiet Britain. London is a city built on its own dead. 900 years of it, layered street over street, plague pits under the pavements, monastery floors beneath the banks, the bones of one century used as the footings for the next. Most of those dead lie quietly enough. The trouble begins with the ones who were never properly named and never properly left. Off Queen Victoria Street in the heart of the city, there is a small church, St. James's, on Garlick Hill, and in the 19th century, when work was done on the floor, the workmen found a body underneath it. Not bones, a body, dried, preserved, near mummified by the cool, dry air under the church. A man, intact, who had lain there long enough that no one living had any idea who he was, and no one ever worked it out. The problem was the fire. St. James's had been gutted in the Great Fire of London in 1666 and rebuilt afterward by Christopher Wren. Whatever records might once have said who was buried in that floor had burned with everything else. So the man under the stones became a puzzle with no solution, and London, being London, filled the silence with guesses. The story goes that he might be a Roman general, or Richard Rothing, who founded the church in the 14th century, or Henry Fitzaulwyn, the first man ever to hold the office of Mayor of London, dead since the year 1212. One account reaches further still and wonders whether the dried man in the porch might be Dick Whittington himself, the real one, the wealthy mercer behind the pantomime. No record supports it, but no record rules it out. What he was given instead of a name was a nickname. The parish came to call him Old Jimmy Garlick. For a long time he simply rested there, a curiosity in a glass case by the door. And then, during the last war, the church was bombed. And after that, by several accounts, Jimmy Garlick stopped resting. Visitors began to report a figure on the tower steps, a shrouded shape, standing where no one should be standing, seen and then not there, always near the man himself. A body with no name had been disturbed, and something in that church had started to move, which raises a question the city has never been able to answer, and will answer again twice more tonight, in 2 other houses. What do you do with a dead thing you cannot put a name to? Upriver from the city stands Hampton Court, and a corridor inside it that people have walked out of, white-faced, for 400 years. In 1541, Catherine Howard, the fifth wife of Henry VIII, was charged with adultery. She was very young. She understood, as anyone in that court understood, exactly where the charge led, to the same block that had already taken Anne Boleyn 5 years before. The story told ever since is this. Held under guard in the palace, she broke away from the men around her and ran down the gallery toward the chapel, where the king was hearing mass, to throw herself on his mercy at the door. She reached it, and the door was locked. Henry on the other side did not stir. She was dragged back along the gallery, and what people say has never quite left the passage are her screams. Whether a queen truly ran that exact length of corridor, no contemporary record proves. What is not in doubt is the ending. Catherine Howard was executed early in 1542. The corridor has been called the Haunted Gallery for longer than anyone can trace. And she is not the only one said to remain. Jane Seymour became Henry's third queen in 1536. The following year she gave him the son he had broken a marriage, a church, and a country to get. The future Edward VI, and the effort of it killed her within days. Her ghost, the tradition holds, walks in white, carrying a lighted candle, gliding out from the state apartments toward Clock Court. Of all the wives, she was the one Henry chose to be buried beside. She is also the one who is said never to have left. And there is a third, quieter, stranger, more domestic than either. Sybil Penn nursed the young Edward VI. In one of the old courtiers' houses on the site, people reported the sound of a spinning wheel turning in an empty room, and then a figure at it, working. The house was lived in within living memory by a family who said plainly that they had heard her and seen her. They called her the Phantom Spinner. A queen we cannot help because the door is 4 centuries locked. A mother in white we cannot reach. A servant still at her work in a room with no one in it. Hampton Court does not frighten you with monsters. It frightens you with the ordinary. A candle, a wheel, a woman running for a door, repeating and never once getting through, which is almost bearable. The last house is not. Number 50 Berkeley Square has carried the same reputation for more than a century. The most haunted house in London. Not for a figure you could name, for something in one upstairs room that, by every account, has no shape at all. The thing in that room is described, when it is described, as a mass, pale, shifting, slithering, wrong. Not a person, not a face, a presence with no edges that the human eye refuses to hold. And we are back where the night began. The young army officer was engaged to the daughter of the house. He had heard the talk and dismissed it, and to settle the matter he agreed to sleep in the haunted room alone. The handbell, the pistol, ring once if you need us, ring twice if something is wrong. Midnight, 1 ring. Then the second, wild, frantic, the bell beating itself to pieces. The family reached the door as the shot came through it. Inside, the officer was dead. He had turned the pistol on himself. The story says in the few seconds it took from the bell to fall from his hand, driven to it by the sight of whatever had come into the room with him. And here the account stops. Not because the storyteller is teasing you, because there is nothing more. No one ever learned what he saw. He could not be asked, and he left no word. More than one version of this night has been told over the years, and they disagree on names and dates and who exactly died in that room. But every one of them arrives at the same locked silence. We began tonight with a man under a church floor who could not be named. We end with a thing in a bedroom that cannot be looked at, and between them a queen who could not be helped. 3 houses in the gold-paved city, 3 things that stayed, and not one of them in 400 years has ever been made to leave. London tells itself it is a modern city. It is built in truth on the things it could not finish burying. A man was preserved under a floor for centuries, and the one thing the city owed him, a name, was the one thing it could never give back. A young woman ran the length of a gallery toward a husband who let the door stay locked and was killed within the year. Whatever walks there now, the cruelty that put her there was entirely real and entirely human. And in a quiet square in Mayfair, a man sat alone in the dark to prove there was nothing to fear, and failed. We can name almost all of it now: the fire, the politics, the marriages, the dates. What these houses keep is the part underneath the names. The man we cannot identify, the woman we cannot reach, and the shape we cannot look at. The city has had 400 years to let them go, and it hasn't managed yet. This is Unquiet Britain.